Welcome back, guys. It is a SARCO Championship Racing once again here, brought to you by Thrustmaster. We are around 5 of the GT3 Open Class Championship. Bruno currently leads the championship with Jacques V in second and Charles in third. Monza is where we will battle with a little bit of rain expected, so sit back and enjoy this 22-lap race. So let's take a look at the starting lineup for this 22-lap race. In 12th place is Jacques S from TTR. Jacques is in the 38 Bentley and he's just behind the 28 of Gerard. Gerard driving for Tosca 2 in the Audi R8. We move forward to row number 5 in 10th place. That is Ash in the 27 Aston Martin, and he is just behind Andrew in the 911. Move forward to row number 4, and Jakes, he's in 8th place, driving for the Black Mambas in car number 14, and he's just behind Ross from Project Cat Racing. Ross in 7th place in the 158 Lamborghini. Move forward to row number 3. Dylan finds himself 6th in the number 12 Audi R8, and he's just behind Jacques V for Project Cat Racing. He too in the Lamborghini, driving in 157. Go forward to row number 2. In 4th place is Marius for Silverback Racing. Marius is driving in the 185 Cadillac, and he is behind Charles for Tosca 1. Charles in the number 6 Audi R8. Moving to row number 1, and we have Jared driving for Tornado Force. Jared in the 67 Lamborghini, and he is just behind the pole sitter Bruno in the 186 Cadillac. As we wait for the green lights, it is green and away we go. Bruno and Jared have got a great lineup to start. That is Jacques V. He too got a great start. He's moving right up behind Charles as they come into the braking zone here into turn number 1. Jared, he goes ahead with a little tap on the back of Bruno. We chase Andrew, a little tap between himself and Dylan, or Jakes. He got a little bit sideways. Everyone seems to be out clearly. That is Carrot moving out. That's Andrew getting hit and taken out by the Aston Martin of Ash. That was Bruno. He just managed to miss that carnage. So to the front we go as they head into Delesmo. Jared for Tornado Force, he leads with Marius. He's in 2nd place. That is a Project Cat Racing's in 3rd and 4th, with the 2 Audis for the Black Mambas in 5th and 6th respectively. As they break for the Ascari chicane, Jared is ahead. We must remember that we are expecting some rain here around lap 3 or lap number 4. Down the back straight, approaching the turn number 11. That's Dylan in the background there. Manages to keep it off the wall. Coming out of Ascari, unfortunately too much power too early, and just spun that rear around. The Lamborghinis definitely have looked very strong on the practice leading up to this race, but we definitely cannot discredit the pace of the Cadillacs. You can see how Marius is staying right up behind that Lambo. So we're in lap number 2. We'll just bring up the current position. So Jared leads with Marius 2nd. Jacques V, he's in 3rd place with Ross, his teammate, in 4th. Jakes is in 5th place with Bruno 6th. Charles down in 7th place. That is Gerard, he's in 8th with Jacques in 9. Ash, he's in 10th place. Dylan 11, and down in 12th place is the Green Mamba Andrew. Jump on board with Jacques V for Project Cats, currently in 3rd place. No, I don't want to tour yet. Let's just jump further back down that field. So we are chasing the 5th and 6th place drivers. That's Bruno going ahead of Jakes. Coming into Delesmo. Not sure whether Jakes had a slowdown penalty in the background there. There's the two stable partners. The drivers Charles and Gerard. Charles from Tosco 1 and Gerard from Tosco 2. In the background we see the Bentley. Just see the straight line speed of that Cadillac versus the Audi. Through Ascari. Oh, that looked like a little bit of lag there by Jakes, because I don't think that he actually would have taken that line. Great shot of all the cars down the back straight, approaching the Parabolica. Crossing the line to begin lap number 3. We're on board with Project Cat Racing's Jacques Vermeulen. No one behind him into turns 1 and 2. Jacques a little bit too hot into turn number 2. You can see his exit speed was just a little bit compromised. Just ahead there, that is Jared leading this race. Just behind him is Marius. Through turn through, and now getting ready to go through the Della Roggia. Turns 4 and 5 chicane. A very tight line there, a little bit over the sausage there. That definitely unstabilized that car. But now into turn 6 and 7 through Delesmo. Little tap of the brakes, turn the nose in, straight back on the power. Just want to have a look to see if there's anyone following. Not yet. So these three are starting to put a little gap away from the 4th place driver. Under the bridge, braking hard here for Ascari. Turns 8, 9, yeah, through 10. Just watch that little apex there, because that can unsettle the car, throw it wide, and sometimes it does give you a little time penalty for crossing the white line on the outside. Flat out down to 260 kilometers an hour, down into 3rd gear, turn in, accelerate as early as possible. You can see Jacques unfortunately running a little bit wide there. That'll make him lose some time here behind Marius. And across the line to begin lap number 4. Race leader Jared coming into turn number 1. Very neat there for Jared. We'll just bring up the current positions. I just wanted to see the actual types of cars. So it is a Lambo, Cadillac, Lambo, Lambo, Cadillac, Audi, 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 Bentley, Aston Martin, Audi, and then Porsche. We're on a lap number 4, so the rain should be starting anytime soon now. This is the battle for 7th and 8th. Charles currently in 7th place. In shot, that is Gerard. Charles did get past him a few laps ago, but Gerard has stuck right behind him. Hasn't really let him get away yet. Charles running a little bit wide there, coming out of turn number 7. Just hitting the outside there. That would have just kicked in the traction control. Not given that power delivery that he would have wanted to get the perfect drive out of the corner. Through Ascari, Gerard's a little bit high on that curve. That's going to have pushed him wide, so he will have had to tighten up here. Down the back straight, just ahead in that green car. That is Jake's car, number 12. Just for some emphasis there, see Jake's just had a little bit of a lag moment there. Gerard getting a little toe behind the likes of Charles. We'll see whether he'll be able to get some extra downforce reduction help from this toe. Well, in the background there, that was Ash going to the pits. So Charles has managed to stay ahead of Gerard. So back to the leaders nearing the end of lap number 5. And we can see windscreen wipers are currently on. But unfortunately the replay is not showing that there's actually rain that should be pouring down. We can start seeing that the track is starting to get wet. Some of the drivers start peeling away to go into the pits. Let's just bring up the current positions. So Marius, he pits. That is Jacques Vermeulen pits. Well, Jacques goes straight through Bruno. That's Bruno that pits. Sorry, Jacques went straight through Marius. That is Ross. That is Bruno. Jakes, he goes past. He now moves himself up into a second place. Just behind him now is Charles and Gerard. So it seems that all the Audis had actually started on the wet tires while all the others were on softs. So that could possibly explain why some of the Audis were just not getting that grip. They weren't getting the drive out of the corners, which was allowing the other guys that had started on the softs to get a lot more drive and actually carry a lot more speed down the straights. So the positions have definitely changed. Jared, he still leads this race with Jakes now in second place. Charles, he's up to third place, and Gerard is in fourth. Dylan is now in fifth with Marius sixth. Jacques Vermeulen is 7th with Ross 8th, Bruno in 9th place, Andrew's 10th, and in 11th place we have Jacques, and unfortunately Ash having retired his Aston Martin out of this race. There goes Marius. That's Jacques Vermeulen. That's Ross, and just behind him is Bruno for Silverback Racing. All four of these drivers having pitted, and they are currently occupying positions 5th, 6th, 7th and 8th. You can still see the spray coming off this track. We're currently on a lap number 7. And it is a Cadillac, Lambo, Cadillac battle right here in the middle of the field. Just ahead there, that was the green car of Jakes. He not having pitted yet, but this train of 4 drivers, they have already taken their pit stop. You can just see some of the water pooling there just before the braking zone for the Parabolica. Well, Ross going a little bit too deep on that braking, so you see he had to just recorrect his speed. To the front, and we have a new race leader with Jared having taken his pit stop. Coming into Della Roggio, Jakes has gone in too hot. There's a Charles right behind him, so now Charles, he is the new race leader. I'm sure Jakes will be absolutely kicking himself, having just given that lead straight into the hands of Charles. So we'll take a look at the current positions. Charles leads with Jakes in second, Dylan is third, Jared down in fourth place, Marius he's fifth with Jacques Vermeulen sixth, Ross is seventh with Bruno eighth, Gerard is in ninth place with Andrew in 10th, and Jacques S down in 11th place in his Bentley. Dylan goes past in the third place. Then it is Jared, Marius. We'll see the Cadillac of Marius, and just behind him will be Jacques Vermeulen. Just behind him will be his teammate Ross for Project Cat Racing. You can just see how close this midfield is. There goes Jakes, currently in a second place. So it is Audi, Lambo, Cadillac, Lambo, Lambo, Cadillac. In the back there, coming out of the chicane, Ascari. That was Bruno. Do want to just stay with Jared right now, but jump on board just to see what it is that he would be seeing. So one of the details we don't get is the raindrops that would be falling on this. Whoa, Jared's a little bit deep. See, Dylan got their power on, but unfortunately the car oversteering and he had to just bring it back. Still a drying line beginning on the race just yet. Dylan taking a very tight line, or touches the little sausage curb on the inside there. You can see the lights of Jacques V just behind him. Still little bits of pools of water still around the track, but we can start seeing now that every now and again that spray just dissipates just a little bit, and then it does come back. I know that just under this Madness Bridge there is a little pool of water, and the car would generally just kick to the left or the right depending on how you entered into that water patch. We jump a trackside. Once again, there's Jake's the bottom of the screen. He's still in second. Well, there's a Lamborghini sliding off there. I think that was a Jacques Vermeulen. Getting it all wrong, coming into a scurry. Oh, Jared having a little look on the inside there, but having carried just a little bit too much speed. Will he be able to go around the outside of the Audi coming through Parabolica? Jared tucks in right behind Dylan. There you can see the speed differential of these cars. That Lamborghini is just so strong on the straights. So Jared now moves himself up into third place, and Dylan, he now drops down into fourth. So next in the queue is Marius. He'll start chasing down Dylan in that Audi. Marius currently in fifth place. He would have relished at the sight of the Project Cat Racing driver Jacques Vermeulen going off, because Jacques was right behind Marius, and we can see in the background there that is Ross, and just behind Ross is the other silverback racer Bruno in the Cadillac. So while we stay on this action, we'll bring up the positions. So Charles, he still leads with Jakes in second, Jared is third, Dylan fourth, Marius fifth, Ross in sixth place, Bruno seventh, Jacques Vermeulen in eighth place, Gerard here's in ninth with Andrew in 10th, and Jacques S down in 11th place. Jared, Dylan, Marius, Ross, Bruno. So Bruno is starting to close down here on Ross. We'll see whether the Cadillac is able to close this gap as they head to the first corner. Retufilo hard into the braking zone. You can see how that Cadillac is squirreling on those brakes. We jump on board the Cadillac with Marius. He's still trying to chase down Dylan, currently in fourth place. Dylan taking a very tight line there with Marius, not quite getting the second part of that corner right. We are fortunate enough to have the speed up on the dash. Whoa, Dylan getting that rear end just a little bit sideways coming out of Delesmo. So you can see how this rain definitely obscures your vision. It does make hitting those braking points very difficult. Dylan a little bit high on that curb. That could have very well unsettled his car. Morris is a little bit wide, but he seems to have got away with it, keeping his foot down on the power. 70 meters, braking for Parabolica. Then we can start seeing that the track is starting to dry up now. We'll start seeing a few racing lines start being built around the track now. As the drivers keep going over the wet spots, they start clearing the track, drying up the line, because the rain now has stopped. Marius moving to the inside. Will you have a look? No, it's still too far away. Braking at a 170 mark. Well, Dylan's very hard on that curb. But Marius was a little bit deep in the first part of that corner, so he allowed Dylan to just get that power on and pull away from him. You see the lights in the background. That would be the lights of Ross, starting to get closer and closer here to Marius. Dylan climbing the sausage. Marius almost on the curb. Will keep it on this view. Whoa, Dylan is sideways coming into turn 6. Marius is back on the power. Will they be able to get closer to Dylan going through Ascari? But now we see that Ross is starting to close this gap here behind Marius. But Dylan is definitely under some major pressure now. Dylan is sliding that car through the Ascari. So Jakes goes past. There's Jared. He's now moving himself up the field. Dylan starting to get a lot of pressure here from Marius. Then it is Ross, Bruno, then Jacques Vermeulen. That's Marius going around the outside. Very, very brave move there by Marius, but Dylan knew that he was there, gave him enough space, and that Cadillac just left that Audi. Well, there's a Jared and a Charles in the pits, which means that we're going to have a change in the leader. Let's just bring up the position. So Jakes, he's once again our race leader. Marius is now second with Dylan third. Ross is in fourth place. Bruno fifth. Jacques V, he's in sixth place with Turbo Charles in seventh place. Jared down in eighth. Gerard, he's in ninth place with Andrew in 10th. And Jacques S is still in 11th. There's Ross having a look on the inside for Dylan. So I just wanted to go back and see how this position was taken. But you see Ross just moved himself to the inside. Dylan gave him enough space. And Ross now moves himself up and Dylan drops down. So that is third, fourth, fifth and sixth place. Very close. This is Marius running wide coming out of turn number 6. He's starting to come back on the track. Well, that is extremely close. Dylan just manages to squeeze in between there. Now Bruno, he's been able to tuck in behind Dylan, so he too will get past Marius. Marius will lose 3 places in the matter of 2 corners. Ross now leads this charge with Dylan, Bruno, and then Marius. Now all 4 of these drivers coming through Ascari. Great shots of how close this race is. We are a little bit over halfway. And in the background there, that is the second Lamborghini for Project Cat Racing. That is a Jacques Vermeulen. I'm sure he'll be wanting to close down this gap. Marius gone a little bit too deep into the Parabolica. You can see him now just having lost just a little bit of time from this pack of 3 cars that are currently about 1.5 seconds ahead of him. That's Bruno making easy pickings of Dylan coming into turns 1 and 2. So Marius starting to put the pressure here on Dylan as they come into the second chicane. Della Roggia. So Ross is away. And the second Lamborghini of Jacques Vermeulen getting ever so close with Dylan getting that very sideways. coming through turn number 6. Whoa, Dylan just clipping that outside curb. That's allowed Morris to get a right up next to him. They're going to be side by side coming to Ascari. No, Dylan tucks in behind Morris. Dylan taking a lot of curb into the Ascari turn number 8. So the positions have changed once again. So our race leader Jakes here as he crossed the line to begin a lap number 14. He leads, still having a not pitted, with Ross second, Bruno's third, Marius fourth, Dylan fifth, Jacques Vermeulen, he's in 6th place with Turbo Scholl down in 7th. Jared, he's in 8th place with Carrot in 9th, Andrews 10th, and Jacques V down in 11th position. Project Catch racer Ross, he's in currently a 2nd place, having started this race down in 7th. Gave himself a 1 second penalty and allowed Dylan to start ahead of him. But Ross is now leading this charge, that effectively he is now currently leading this race, with Jakes is 10 seconds ahead of him, but Jakes having not pitted yet. But Bruno is starting to close this gap up on the Lamborghini. We can definitely see that there is a dry line starting here on this track. But every now and again there is just a little bit of spray, so there are definitely puddles still around. That is the race leader Jakes. Bruno trying to get that slipstream, but Ross weaving across the track. Ross having a very tight line coming through the Parabolica. Drivers trying to get right up against the wall. Oh, that's Andrew for the Green Mambas, now being lapped by the lead pack. We jump on board with Bruno as they go through turn number 3. He's definitely not letting this Lamborghini get away from him. Just remembering that Bruno had set the fastest qualifying time for this race. So I'm sure we're looking for an opportunity to get himself around this Lamborghini. Bruno definitely seems to be giving Ross a lot of pressure here. I do believe that Bruno has the pace. We'll have a look on the inside coming to Ascari. He moves to the outside. Well, Ross just squeezes that door slowly. Very close between the drivers. Ross is a little bit deep. That might allow Bruno to get a much better drive coming out of the last corner of Ascari, turn number 10. Will he just back off a little bit, get the drive, tuck in behind him here through Parabolica and take him into the first hairpin? Very close. Bruno, I think, might have given him just a little touch, but it was just enough to make contact, but nothing to actually upset the car. So Bruno tucks in right behind him. We see that Jakes, he was in the pits. This is Bruno now making the move. Will he be able to go around the outside, hard on the brakes? Bruno manages to get his nose just in front of that Lambo. So we now have a new race leader. Bruno now leads the race with Ross in 2nd. Jacques Vermeulen, he's in 3rd. Jakes is now in 4th. I see the positions are changing, so Charlie is now 4th with Jakes 5th. Jared is 6th. Marius is in 7th. I believe that Marius would have gone into the pits That's Dylan and now in 8th place. Dylan and now up to 7th. Gerard, he's in 9th place with Andrew 10th, and Jacques, he unfortunately having retired. So this is Dylan currently in 8th place. Just behind him, that is Morris. He's in 9th place, coming through the second of the chicanes. Well, Morris has hit the curb. That's pushed him right off the track. So that's going to allow Dylan to just open that gap ever so slightly. So we follow our race leader, Project Cat Racing, Ross. He leads on lap number 17. Just behind him is his teammate Jacques Vermeulen, followed by Jared in 3rd. Charles, he's in 4th place with Jakes in 5th. Bruno is down in 6th place, having taken another pit. Gerard, he's in 7th position with Dylan in 8th. Marius, he too having pitted once again. He's in 9th place with Andrew in 10th and Jacques having retired. We see that just behind the race leader, that is the Porsche for Andrew. It seems like Andrew is just getting a tow here from the race leader. Andrew enjoying a little drive there on his own. But great to see him still on track, still fighting after the little incident coming out of turn number 2. Got a little side swipe from Gerard. Gerard trying to avoid Charles. And then unfortunately the Aston Martin of Ash hitting Andrew from behind and forcing him to go into the pits early. So Ross taking the wet route, crossing the line to begin a lap number 18, which would tell me that he is possibly still on the wet tires. So coming down the back straight towards the Parabolica, it is Audi R8 versus Audi R8. Gerard currently in 8th place is being followed by Dylan. Dylan takes a much tighter line and goes past Gerard. So Dylan will now move himself up into 7th place, while Gerard, he now goes into the pits. So here is the battle for 4th, 5th and 6th place. Charles, Jakes, then Bruno. So there'll only be 4 laps left after these guys cross the line. So Jakes in 5th place, having led this race on 2 occasions. Charles, he too has led this race. Coming through Retifilio. You can just hear that distinctive sound of that Cadillac, and it does sound like it's hitting the limiter when it changes. But Bruno has informed us that it's definitely not like that in the car. That Cadillac is definitely closing down these Audis. You can see some side damage there, but every now and again you can still see there is a little bit of water still on this track. Charles is getting immense pressure here from both Jakes and Bruno. I think he must be nursing some damage. We'll see it coming to Ascari whether both Bruno and Jakes will be able to get past. Jakes moves to the inside. Will Bruno follow? No, he stays behind Charles going into Ascari. Well, Jakes went in a little deep. He would have had to just scrub off some speed there. Charles goes a little bit wide and Bruno tucks up right behind him there. He's made his move. So Bruno will now have the inside coming to Parabolica. Will he take on both of the Audis into the braking zone? No, he doesn't. Let's see if he'll be able to tighten up, but he decides to go a little bit wider, tuck up behind Jakes. I'm sure he'll get the slipstream advantage and make the move going into turn number 1. And there goes that Cadillac power overtaking the Audi R8. Bruno still has time to move back into the racing line, into the braking zone. That is a race leader, Ross. He moves over to get some of the wet stuff, trying to cool down those tires. Ross definitely on the wets, and there's his teammate lapping Gerard. So it is still a Lamborghini, a 1-2. Jared Hitu in the Lamborghini is currently in third place. So that is a first and second for Project Cat Racing. Ross, he leads with Jacques Vermeulen in second place. We're on the final lap of this 22-lap race. Oh, Jacques, he's spun it around. There's traffic coming. Oh, he goes straight into Gerard. But that would leave... That's exactly what I was thinking, is that Jared would be right behind him. And I'm sure that Jacques would have got himself some damage, having taken that little knock from Gerard. So Jacques has unfortunately thrown away his second place. Jared is right up behind him. Oh, Jacques made a mistake. He hit the inside sausage curb, and unfortunately thrown himself wide. That's allowed Jared to take that second place away from him. Race leader Ross for Project Cat Racing. He will exit out of Parabolica for the 22nd and the last time for this race. He crosses the line in first place. Jared will steal that second place from Jacques V. I'm sure he'll be kicking himself for that mistake. Bruno will come home in fourth place with Jakes in fifth, Charles in sixth, Dylan in seventh place with Andrew in eighth. Gerard will finish ninth with Marius in 10th and Jacques down in 11th place. So we'll have a 3 Lambos, 3 Audis. Thank you guys, I hope you enjoyed that race. There really was a lot of excitement that happened there. That weather definitely did mix things up. Lots of different strategies, lots of close racing. If you did like that video, please give the video a like, subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to hit that notification button, and we'll be able to get notified when there's any new live streams or replays that have been posted. Should you want to find out more, all the website and the Facebook details are in the description below. Give us a like, come join us in those conversations, and come and talk to us on our Discord. We'll be back in 2 weeks' time where we conclude this championship. So until then, thanks for watching, yos.